In this video we're going to see a lot of practical footage of this rather charming little gas camping lantern in use in a variety of different situations, as well as share an awful lot of opinions too. This is the Fire Maple gas lantern, and as you can see in its protective case with just a little bit of bubble wrap in there too, it's 185 grams give or take, and without its case it's roughly 124 grams. This is my head torch that I've been using pretty much as my de facto camping lantern, weighs just a little bit more at 194 grams, but that is an extremely good head torch, which we'll take a look at later in this video as part of our comparison footage. As you can see at face value, it's an incredibly simple piece of kit. We have a long cylinder of glass, which we can spin around so we can open up a hole at the base to light the gas, and then close that hole up so that the wind doesn't make the flame flicker and get very annoying very quickly. We'll talk more on that in just a second. We've of course got a little dial to regulate the flow of the gas and the size of the flame, and of course the base has a screw thread which attaches to a gas bottle. You'll see throughout this video me using two different sizes just to give you a general idea, but this is how simple it is to use. Open the valve to allow the gas to start flowing, then in this case really struggle to get the match lit because of the damp and the wind, and then light the lantern through the hole in the base of the glass. Then twist the glass to cover up the hole in the base and allow the flame to be protected by the glass enclosure, so this just stops the wind potentially blowing the flame out or just generally buffeting around and creating excessive flickering. The instructions do state specifically to keep the flame within the glass containment area, which we'll talk about in just a second. Controversially, I'm going to start the practical usage section of this video by showing you some footage of me setting up a bit of my campsite using my really good, really bright, modern electric head torch. And this is really just to prove the point and make the point now that I am dealing from a point of absolute reality in this video, where I accept fully that modern battery operated lights are so bright, so efficient, and so small in many cases that it's hard to beat, whereas something like the gas lantern, it's almost an entirely different kind of beast from a different era. As you can see on screen now, we are being lit entirely by the lantern alone, and this is the level that I'd say the flame should be at. It's giving a nice bit of light, but it's well contained within the glass. However, here, raising it above the glass, not only is this against what the instructions say, but of course, it's far more dangerous because there's a flame completely in the open, and because of the fact it is in the open, it also becomes far more flickery, which is not really what you want. You can see here, with it at a much lower, more sensible level, completely enclosed by the glass, it's a really solid and stable light. So I genuinely don't recommend you use it above the level of the glass. For comparison's sake, here is my weird and wonderful setup for using my headlamp as a lantern, using a selfie stick tripod combo to hang it up, and of course this again is on its brightest floodlight setting, so again it's probably not really a fair comparison, but it is proving the point of just how light. I mean, look at this as we're setting up the smaller gas bottle with the lantern. We've got this extremely bright and extremely directional light coming from the headlamp, whereas of course not only is the lantern a lot dimmer in general, but with the very nature of a flame it is sending light out in all directions. But this really starts to speak to why these are completely and utterly different devices for utterly different purposes. So you can see once again how much that flame's flickering, and even just getting that valve closed up at the base is allowing it to stabilise. But once you fetch that flame down to the correct level, you can see, I mean, just look at this, this is a time lapse, and look how solid and stable that flame is. Absolutely lovely and absolutely fantastic, but you can certainly see how much dimmer it is in general than using obviously a purpose-made bright modern electronic light. So do I actually like this gas lantern or what, the way I keep going on about how good my head torch is? Well, the answer might surprise you, and yes, I absolutely love it, and I think it's a really enjoyable item to use. It actually puts me in mind with why I love my Trangia stove seen here. It's one of my favourite items I've ever owned, this stove, even though I've got the Fire Maple stove, which runs off gas and is way more efficient. In fact, in a head-to-head test, it boiled water roughly 4 times faster than my Trangia, yet the Trangia with its flame licking around, It's just a wonderful item to use. It feels peaceful to use it. It's just nice to have around. And that's how I feel about this lantern. Is it dimmer than my head torch? Of course it is. Is it completely unsuitable for stealth camping because of the way it throws light out in all directions? Yes, of course. Is it more dangerous because it's an actual flame rather than just a battery torch? In most cases, probably yes. And of course, you can't fetch something like the gas lantern inside a tent because there's many risks, of course, of the gas. There's the risk of fire. So it's a purely outdoor open space thing as well. However, it's just really nice to use, and it's practically silent as well. And when you've got it just going at that sensible simmering level, well contained within the glass, it throws out just enough light to be usable for setting up for campsites, such as you saw me earlier setting up my bivy bag and sleeping bag and camping mattresses and so on. And after I'd climbed into the bivy bag, I just sat for maybe 20 minutes with the flame burning away at different levels, and it was just really nice. As I say, the pure silence of the thing, and then really, really lowering it to just put a tiny, tiny glimmer of light to splash out onto the surroundings while I was in the bivy bag and looking up at the stars that were rapidly being turned into just a bank of cloud, which then, very soon after I finished filming these clips, turned into rain, which did not feel great, I'll admit, because I had all of my kit out because I'd been filming everything. But as you can see, I'm just testing this out and showing you it in different environments. This is just a big open car park, so you can see the radius of the flame and the light coming from it. And that's what I say, it's not ideal for things like stealth camping and other specific uses like that. But as a general item on a campsite or in my nan and granddad's garden, for example, or anywhere that I'm not worried about being seen, having something like this just in the corner of the campsite, obviously away from the tents and so on, it's a nice addition. And I would also say, as an emergency backup, they claim it uses about 4 grams of gas an hour, but I'm not sure what level the flame is at with that claim. But as something that requires zero electronic power or battery power, being able to screw something like this to a gas bottle, especially if you're using gas for cooking anyway, this might be a far more handy item than you might expect at face value, or at least something that you reach for and use far more often than the maybe negative seeming tone of this video would suggest, because it's really not meant to be negative, it's meant to be absolutely honest and realistic. In that theme, my honest final thoughts are as follows. I really like this item, I'm very pleased that I bought it, but I will admittedly likely use it far more often when I'm out and about, such as sat on these stones amidst the river, for example, rather than on my day-to-day campsites, because those are locations I'd prefer not to broadcast, if you understand me. I will say this though, it was listed at $29.95, but when I bought it, it had a 20% off and a 10% saving, which in the end came to £20.96. So, as always with Amazon, please do keep an eye on those prices and potential vouchers and so on. I'll leave some Amazon associate links to some of my camping gear down below. If you purchase through those, I will get a commission, so that's an excellent way to support the channel if you are thinking of getting something like this already anyway. And until the next time, my friends, I'll say thank you very much for watching, and also a tremendously big thank you to all of my recent PayPal supporters, Facebook subscribers, channel members, and super thankers, including AJ, Sharon LH, James G, Idea Sinker, Zoe F, Rich AH, Melissa L, Colin S, me, Kevin Y, Alice L, Jackie A, Sean B, Kaz G, MV, George B, Marissa, Mr. Dave C, Lima Bean, 1234, Art V, Cloudface, Terence Seymour, Amber Sanford, Dogs, and Rob. Thank you very much for everything, everybody. Until the next time, keep it interesting, keep it lantern worthy, have a fantastic day, and of course, farewell.